So welcome everybody to tonight's the last of January Salt Talks. It's hard to believe we've gone through the first month now of um, January, and we're talking this month about independent living. So, as part of independent living, tonight we have Janet and Alycia, Janet Maine and Alycia Champion. They're with the Maine Champion Coaching, and they've experienced what we are still learning your next step, because we talked about transition last fall, about transition from high school. We talked about employment, post-secondary, and now we're into the assisted, into the we did assisted technology last week, and we did housing the week before that, but all about independent living. And I we brought in Janet and Lisa to share their story and talk about also how do we make that transition from um, into that independent living stage. It is a scary stage. I gotta admit, I am a parent as well, and I find it to be a very scary step, all in all. So I'm gonna bring up their presentation, and while I'm doing that, if Janet or Alicia, you can, start talking about yourself so I get it pulled up. And thank you again for presenting tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everybody. I'm Alycia Champion, one half of Maine Champion. We are happy to be here tonight. This is a presentation that we did for a conference with another individual, and so it's probably more formal than we are. So if there are questions, please feel free to raise your hand or just interrupt and ask questions. And then there will definitely be time for questions at the end. Um, we want this to be as comfortable and conversational as it can be.
Oops, one second. I guess I have to pull it down to my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes,
Is
Mhm.
that I think that's the one I
that's
just
the right
shared.
That
one.
is the
Yep.
right one. Yay.
Okay.
There was sort of a last minute panic on our part. I was like, I think I might have sent her the wrong presentation. So I'm glad I didn't. With this changing our server is kind of messing with us a little bit. But we're happy to be here. I'm the other half of Maine Champion. My name is Janet Maine. Uh, in the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about my son who brings me to this space, and we are thrilled to be here again. This is we would like this to be more conversational, and we don't want to PowerPoint you all to death. Um, we really value what you have to say and asking questions. So please unmute and ask away.
Next slide. So we are first just going to introduce ourselves quickly, which I feel like we've kind of already done. We want to think about what success looks like. What does that best life look like? We want to talk about some helpful strategies, and the importance of having those difficult conversations. We want to steer you towards some concrete tools that we use that you may already be aware of. But if you're not, you probably want to be using. And then we definitely want to leave a lot of time for some question and answer and some discussion. Next slide. So we are Maine Champion Coaching. I am Alycia Champion. I am the parent of a 26-year-old man with severe autism. And Janet, I'll let you introduce yourself.
And I am Janet Maine, and I am the mother of Matthew Maine, who is a 27-year-old, about to be 28-year-old, a young man with Down syndrome. And he brings me to this space and to my passion for helping to build that best life.
So both Janet and I were and are parent mentors. I am actually still a parent resource coordinator for a school district down in the Cincinnati area, and we found that parents that we and families that we had worked with continued to call us after after their kids graduated because they knew we were living in this world. And so for years, Janet and I were saying there needs to be this parent mentor role. There needs to be this parent resource coordinator role in the adult world because it's not easy. So that's what brought us to create Maine Champion about a year and a half ago. So next slide. So
We
I'd love to
like to
know
know,
here,
oh,
how many people do we have?
We have 21, and they'll put responses into the chat just for their own privacy.
Okay,
So
perfect.
you should be able to see the chat. If you have any questions, just ask them to
Yep,
put it in the chat.
perfect.
yeah, we really we want to know who we're talking to. It really helps us kind of gear that conversation. If we're, I know I see
Yeah.
Christina on this, so how are you? It's good to see you.
Maybe just the age of your child.
Or what brings you to the space
Yeah,
if you're not a parent. That just kind of helps us gear the conversation.
yeah, particularly if you're an SSA.
I'm just
And
gonna,
then you can go to the next slide. We'll just keep an eye on this.
okay, yeah.
Oh, Clermont County, nice.
We want to, we know the cliff is real. Once that school bus, once that little yellow bus stops coming to your house, where do you go next? It's a very scary place. I remember being there. I remember being overwhelmed and trying to figure this out. And suddenly, all of those supports that you had in school are no longer there. Um, and so we have found some great strategies to kind of help guide you through that process so that cliff is not so scary.
So I see someone here with someone with profound autism. So I would say that my son falls into that category. He is functionally nonverbal, severe behaviors. And I cannot tell you how many spaces I sat in like this where people were talking about transition. And I'm like, yeah, but that not for my kid. Um, and so I think there are for for individuals who have significant behaviors, you have to get pretty creative sometimes. Next slide. So no matter where you're coming from, whether you are headed to college and just need those extra supports that you had in high school, or you're kind of in more of our situation where you can't even imagine an independent life for your child. Like, how could that happen? It really is important to imagine success for your individual and define it as best you can, and expect that your child could be happy. Because I think at the end of the day, most of us, just no matter whether our child has a disability or not, you just want your child to be happy, or gain as much happiness as they can. I would say that both of us believe that our sons are as happy as they are because they've been able to gain as much independence as possible. And that looks very different for each of them. Next slide.
So this is a little bit of my story, Matthew's story. So on the left-hand side is Matthew and his three sisters. Matthew is my middle child, and he was actually born in Hong Kong. And I had a Tibetan doctor come and tell me that, I think your son has Down syndrome. It was kind of a terrifying point of my life. And just trying to figure that out and how we were going to navigate that as a family. We ended up staying in China for 4 years. Came back here when Matthew was 3, so we didn't really have any of that help me grow support. So I sort of got into the DD world a little bit later. And Matthew went to Princeton City Schools from preschool through graduation. He graduated at 19. When he was 19, we began to do a little bit of the Charting the Life course stuff. It kind of came in, it was like the perfect storm. Celia Schlomer, and many of you may know her, came and said, hey, you've got to come and see this stuff. It's planning for the future. And I was like, well, I'm in the throes of that. So attended it and just used those tools from that day forward to plan, to help Matthew plan his life. And the great thing about it, and we'll talk a little bit more about those tools, is that Matthew was in the driver's seat. Matthew was the person planning his future. And I was just there to help make it happen and put all the right tools in place. So when he took his diploma at 19, Matthew wanted to go to college. So he attended the TAP program at the University of Cincinnati. And again, when he was in that TAP program, it was wonderful because that was basically their curriculum, and they were constantly talking and planning for what their futures looked like. So when he did his final year, uh, or yeah, his senior year, their capstone project was, sitting down and kind of going through charting the life course. And Matthew told us what he wanted to do. I want to live on my own. I want to have a job that I love. I want to live with my friends. I want to live down in Clifton. And so we just helped him make all that happen. And that middle picture is the two young men, Duke and Jack, that Matt has lived with for the last 4 years. And they continue to uh, have a great relationship. They're like brothers. They help each other. And Matthew, quite honestly, is living that best life that he created for himself. And I think next slide.
So our story is very different. Um, Max was typically developing and then regressed at about 18 months, had some language, but kind of lost everything. And school was incredibly challenging. We actually ran a program for him in our home before he started preschool, and then he went all the way through the preschool program in Forest Hills. He was in a class that was specifically designed for individuals with autism or children with autism.
You're making me feel very overwhelmed. Go lay down for a minute.
Oh. And school was incredibly difficult for Max. I mean, it was very hard. He was on a reduced day very early on. He had significant behaviors. He really struggled with that environment. He was an out of district placement in the third grade. And it continued. It was very hard. And I think it kind of turned once puberty kicked in, and you can't really tell how big he is from these pictures, but I always tell people the first thing you notice about Max is not his autism, it's his size, because he's 6'2", 250, and he's not particularly chunky. I actually hate this picture of him, but that's him in front of his house, so that's why we're using this picture. But he's linebacker size. And so the behaviors that he was exhibiting at home and at school were incredibly dangerous. And so in the ninth grade, he was an out of district placement. He was residentially placed up at the Monarch Center for Autism in Cleveland. And he spent his last 5 years of school at Monarch in Cleveland. And so when we moved him down, when it was time to age out, he aged out of that program at 21. And we decided we also use those charting the life course tools to kind of figure out what had worked for him, what hadn't worked for him. And he he's very big, and he tends to, well, he doesn't do it so much anymore, but he's a jumper. And so we thought, well, we've nobody thought it was safe for him to come home. We have been triggers in the past, and so nobody thought that was a good idea. And so we started looking at apartments, and again, he's a pacer, he's big, he moves, he tends to break things. Not because he's aggressive or destructive, but he's just kind of an oaf. Um, and so anyway, we started looking at apartments, and then we started looking at condos, and we weren't finding anything. My brother-in-law happened to be a real estate developer, and he's like, "Well, why don't you just buy a house?" And we're like, well, that's easy for you to say. He's a real estate investor. And he said, well, I'll buy a house. And if it doesn't work out, then, we'll sell it. And you can rent from me and we'll see if that works. And so they ended up buying a house. I found it and we had to do some renovations. It was a big deal. It was right in the middle of COVID. It was a nightmare. But we found a space that we thought was appropriate for him. One of the biggest things that we thought we could help him with, he seems to struggle when other people are struggling. And he has always been put, if your kid has big behaviors, they tend to get put with the other kids who have big behaviors. And so I always say, he just kind of feels the room. And so we thought if we could get him on his own, if we could get him by himself, that was kind of our best chance for success. Um, and I will say he moved into that house, and for the first week, we had we had a few hair pulls, we had a few uh, we had broken glasses. But after about a week, the behaviors kind of settled down. For those of you who may have kids on, a lot of meds, I'll give you the med picture for him. When he moved into that house, he was taking 75 milligrams of Thorazine 3 times a day. He was on a healthy dose of Invega. Honestly, I don't even remember anything else that he took, but those were the big guns. It took us years, but as his behavior was better, we were able to reduce those meds. He now takes no psychotropic drugs at all. He's down to, I think, 10 milligrams of propranolol once a day. And honestly, I think we'll end up removing that in a few months. Still takes Miralax. I think that will always be there. But he is happy because of the independence that he has. We worked closely with our county to help us find an agency that could support the level of need that he had, because he is full 24/7 supports. And so he needed a lot of support. And still kind of does, I think, because of his size and he's just kind of threatening with a smile on his face. He's just kind of intimidating because of his size. Janet can attest to this.
Yeah, I don't think we added a picture of Matt and Max together, but it's a pretty dramatic difference. He towers over everyone.
Yeah. Let's see. Next slide.
So I think what we want to talk about is just helpful strategies to kind of help you through these really difficult conversations. They are hard to have. It's not fun to think about, I'm not going to be here someday. What is their life going to look like when I'm not here? But when I look back on it, when I think about it, I'm so glad that I'm having these conversations now, why I'm healthy and I'm 60 years old and I can tweak it and work on it. We actually were having that conversation tonight with his doctor because Matt's going to have to go on um, prednisone and it's going to be, different doses every day. And I'm like, he's like, well, I can change it. And I'm like, no, let's not change it because this is real life and we need to work through this. So I think it's just good to, create that vision that you have, start working on it now. When people ask me when should I work on transition, I say now. So it's never too early to start that. And then really just getting grounded in those goals, believing in them, thinking about them, breaking them down. Um, and and the third one is then breaking those goals down. And you really, these are, we have the elephant here because we're talking about the elephant in the room. And just allow yourself space for those emotions and those fears and talk about them and plan for them. It's not easy. Are there nights when I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, where is he? I'm terrified. There are things that you can do to, I have Life 360 on my phone. And, sometimes when I just get that feeling, I'm in the middle of the night, I'll look and I'll go, oh, he's at home. He's safe. So just allow yourself that time for all those scary emotions that you will, think about them, talk about them with your husband or significant other. Um,
Or the people that support you. I think that I can't tell you how many parents, I'm going to speak for you, Janet, that we've talked to where in the school environment where you ask a question like, so where will your child live? And the answer is, well, they'll be with me until I die. Um, and I feel really comfortable saying that is a terrible idea and it's not a plan. We actually have had in our business, we have had someone whose parent died, um, and they found them, and this is it's trauma upon trauma. The the ability to get your to build the adult life for your child, and then figure out what's missing, figure out what you can add, figure out what they need so that it's a, as smoothly an oiled machine as you can get will give you, and I mean, you will sleep at night.
Yeah, and we don't put ourselves up as exemplars. Like it's not perfect. There are bumps in the road, but again, we're here and we're able to work through those. It's not a 911. I got to get them out now. We work through those all the time. Like I said today, we were working through that, trying to think how can Matt, you know, go through this medicine correctly. Um, so
And
great.
Max lives 25 minutes from us. And so with this most recent snowstorm over the weekend, I was on the phone with his house manager, kind of talking about what's plan A, what's plan B, because the assumption is that there were people who were not going to be able to get there. And so, but it's living through experiences like that where you've done this. Okay, this is how this works. And we did that a little bit during COVID too, when they would go on to a different level, we would reduce the number of staff because he does have a lot of staff in his house. Um,
And just know, you know, have it's hard to talk about, but once you have a plan and once you have that vision, it's going to make those emotions a lot less.
it's less overwhelming. Next slide. And so I think we've talked about this. Don't be afraid to have a vision. I mean, it is okay to say my child is going to be happy. Um, and 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 then work toward that goal. Next slide. This is where we don't want to PowerPoint you to death. Yep. Think about those goals, focus in on them, break things down. Next slide. Yeah, and then break it down. Think about there's a great tool from let's see, go to the next slide. It may be on the next slide. Allow space for emotion. Yeah, this is hard. It's talking about, I mean, it's money, it's death. These are hard conversations to have. Next slide. Oh, there we go. That's a pretty recent picture. Yeah, he even looks big standing next to Ted Karras. We love the Charting the Life course tools. We both kind of use it as a mental framework. They are wonderful tools. And Janet, did you want to say something about?
Well, yeah, I think the big thing about those charting the life course tools is that you're going through all those domains and that's when you're breaking them down and thinking about that social part, that housing part, where is it an apartment? Are you going to own your own house? Um, so
Or is it a group home? And what's the level of support needed? So if you're an SSA, understanding, the agencies that can support is going to be a huge piece if you've got someone who has a lot of behaviors. When we moved down from Cleveland, Hamilton County gave us a list. I might get the numbers here, but this is a general gist of it. I think they gave us five. And so I had made a PowerPoint to just say, this is max. And it was just a little more involved than a one pager. And out of the five, I think two said, no, thank you. And so we ended up interviewing the other three, and we went with a smaller agency. And we actually still use that agency. Again, not perfect, but I can tell you in 6 years, he has never been not covered.
And I like, unfortunately, we're on Zoom, so I can't really see all of you, but usually we ask the question, do you know what charting the life course is? They are free tools that you can, just go charting, or is it charting the life course or next?
Tools.com. Yeah.
And so they're free to anyone. And the thing about it is writing things down does help. Um, it it becomes, Alycia says this a lot of times, writing it down and making that plan, it becomes your true north. And so it just helps you, you can think about things, but those tools and you don't even have to use the tools, just writing down those goals and breaking down those goals will help you make that plan and help you tweak that plan.
Line on a piece of paper. What do I want? What don't I want? What has helped me in the past?
And if you want to start, if you have never seen them, one of the easiest things to do to get started is it's called a one pager, and it's just a description of who your child is. And you can use a one pager for anything, for a doctor's visit, for going to summer camp. Um, so I strongly encourage all of you to get one of those and just write stuff down.
Or get a lot of them.
Yeah,
Have one for if my kid ends up in the emergency room. Have one for if he's attending a new sporting event. This is the support he's going to need. Yeah,
The
you
other,
can have a bank of one pagers for different situations.
and
What's the next slide? I think we're about done here with the slides. Yeah, these are the Charting the Life course tools. So can we get like a yes or a no in the um, I'm hoping that almost everybody is familiar with these. Can we, in the chat, could people put in yes or no whether they are familiar with these tools?
We should have put in the link to them. It should their link should be there for charting the life course. But we've had Sheila on
Mhm.
these talks, and we did have that last week as well, about the charting the life course.
So I
Yeah.
see a lot of yeses, which is great. If you haven't done them or if you know what they are, but you're not really using them, use them on yourself first, because then you see how they help you brainstorm things for yourself. And I see a ton of yeses, so that's great. I think sometimes we're aware of these tools or we've used them in one circumstance, but we might not think that they're adaptable to others. Other situations. In my parent resource coordinator role, I do life trajectories with families for summer camps. What do I want my trajectory? It doesn't have to be a lifelong, this is what I want my good life to look like. It can be, but it can also be, what do I want winter break to look like? What do I want it to look like when I go visit my family out of state? And one pagers are actually great for that too.
Yeah, the other one, and Alicia's right. Do it on yourself first. And the trajectory, which is not either one of, oh yeah, it is the life trajectory is there. I think is a great one to start out with. And and if it seems overwhelming, the easiest thing you can do is start out with what I don't want. Most of us know what we don't want. That's usually the easier boxes to fill in and to go first.
I don't want my child to be isolated. I don't want them to be lonely. I don't want them to not be able to get the medical care that they need. That was always a big thing for us. Again, Max had been asked to leave places. He had left a doctor's office in handcuffs once. I mean, it was that was a real concern of mine. And let's see,
I
can you
we have a
offer
question.
any for hang on,
Yes.
I've got something in the chat here. Let me read it. It says, can you offer any help for families who do not have waiver funding for supports to promote independence, or those who have long waiting placements? What was life, what was life like before waiver? Um, so it requires you to get a lot more creative. Without a waiver. And the tool that's on your right there is the support star. And that is a good, if you put support in the middle and think about all the people who are supporting you now, and what that support could look like in the future. This is actually the split star. So if I'm thinking about um, what that might look like. And I would continue those conversations with your SSA so that they are very aware of the needs of your child, so should something happen to you. But building schedules into your day, find things that your child can do, or your adult can do. So I'll give an example. So, and Max does have support, but if he didn't, this would probably be me. But having, so we looked at day programs when we moved down, and they just would look at him, and it was just, again, he's threatening with a smile on his face. So no one was willing to kind of take him in as for a day program. So we kind of had to build our own. So what did his activities look like? Well, we had memberships at the zoo, at the aquarium, at he goes to the Mayerson JCC, and there are a lot of groups that you can take advantage of that don't cost a lot. For example, the gyms and YMCAs, I think, are this way too. A lot of times they do have groups that for adults with special needs. Max does basketball every other week. And those are little to no cost. Remember, if your child is low income, they may qualify for a reduced gym membership. I did not know that for the first couple of years we lived here, until somebody mentioned it to me, and it made a huge savings in the amount we were paying for his membership at the gym. And so showing up, in fact, we just had this when we move into the winter time. I was just talking about, can we set up some more regular gym times for him to go in and walk the track and then go in the hot tub, because that's a big deal for him. But showing up regularly at different places helps build people who know your individual, and just getting yourself out there. If you if you're if you can do worship somewhere, that can be a huge piece of support. And then just understanding the places in your community where it's safe for you to be. So think about parks that you can go to, special events. And sometimes when you discover one group of people, a lot of times they're doing other things. Miracle League Baseball is a great opportunity for adults with disabilities to get out there at any skill level. Um,
And
and we
I just wanted to add to that, Alycia, that like the Ken Anderson Alliance, there are people that have events that do not take waiver dollars and are very minimal cost social events going on. I don't remember where everyone was located. I know most people are in Butler County or above. Is that right?
Well, no, I saw some Clermont County. So the folks in Clermont County, and Ken Anderson does have a day program that is waiver funded, but they have evening events that you sign up for once a month. They're kind of hard to get into, but you can sign up. It's just it's you go through an intake process and then you can sign up, and those are great events. And they just, sometimes there's no cost, sometimes it's $5. It's never very much. Or if it's dinner, you're just paying for your dinner, but it's something to get out and just get out and be social. And as you're talking to people, networking, as I think we all know, networking with other parents is the best way to find out what other people are doing that's successful.
And another thought I had is Hamilton County has what they call the uh, covenant of support, and there's a video, and I know Christina, I don't know if you can put that in the chat, that video for the covenant of support. That's a great uh, way to get your community to be around your individual and to get some of those community-based outings so that all of that responsibility doesn't fall on you. It's a great um,
It's a great concept. We've worked with a family that did this, and um, it's it really is good to bring in sometimes people want to help, but they just don't know what to do, and they don't want to be, the person who has to show up every day, but they might be able to show up twice a month and take your individual out to lunch, or
to
and
a
so the covenant
movie.
support is worth exploring for sure.
Yeah. I have sat through the meetings and it's very, very powerful to watch families go through that process and really feel super overwhelmed because people do want to help. So reaching out, and it's not family. I mean, the people that were in this group, it was just different times of this young individual's life that they were in her life, and everybody just wanted to help because they love her. And so there are things that you can do that do not cost waiver dollars, and actually, some of that stuff is the more powerful, the more meaningful stuff.
And I think it kind of falls under that category of, kind of if you have someone with severe behaviors, it makes it harder and you just have to get more creative. If you don't have access to those waiver dollars, it's harder and you have to get more creative.
I think we can go to the next slide.
Oh, here's some things we love.
Yeah. Here are some additional resources that we have. If you have not gotten this Moving Out book, uh, a guide to residential planning for adults with disability, it's a great read. It's worth the, I can't remember what the book costs,
You can
but
get it on Amazon. I think it was about $30.
and I briefly talked about Life 360. That is the app that I use for my son. And it's funny, I use it to watch where he is. Well, he also uses it to watch where I am. Like he's watching me as much as I'm watching him. But it's just that I I don't need to know what he's doing all the time. What I do need to know is that he is where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. And that's what I do. Like, oh, he's supposed to be at work now. Oh, he is at work. Great. Or he's supposed to be home now. Or I know he's going to a movie or whatever. It's just a great tool, easy. It's free. I mean, there's other versions, but I use the free version, and it's just a simple tool to kind of follow them. And then Alycia and I are super strong believers in the Danny plan. If you have not seen this, it's a great way to, it's kind of a electronic letter of intent. So it's all those things. It's putting everything together in this one beautiful little uh, computer.
It acts like it's a website, but it acts like an app. You can access it on your phone very easily. It kind of feels like an app. But it is, like Janet said, it's an electronic letter of intent that helps you gather everything in one place. It's very adaptable. You can put everything from videos of, if your child likes their bed made a certain way, you can say you're going to have to make the bed this way. Or if you have new staff coming to work with your individual, there is what are the most important things you need to know? It's a place to gather all of your medical information, all of your financial information. It's HIPAA compliant and it has the legal shield. And it's shareable in parts or in whole. So if you just want to send some people some things and other people other things, it's very adaptable. Um, and you can also there are different tiles for each subject, and you can even create a new tile that will combine some information from other things. Like I have a tile that is just Max's agency's the information I want them to know. Like I pulled some of the medical information, but not all of the medical information. But just to kind of make it easier. It really is a wonderful plan. It's not free. It's $99 a year. Um, and you could stop and print it out at any point and then you've got it. But it's much better than having everything scattered in different places. So if the unthinkable happens, everything is organized and it's all in one place for the people who are going to have to pick up the pieces and move on.
So, when we're no longer here, the person that takes over is not going to understand the language. So you can kind of put some of that in there. Like the doctors, I have a picture of every doctor and the day, like this, he goes and sees this doctor twice a year. And I've added like the most recent visit, this was what happened and this was the doctor's suggestion. So really the sky's the limit on what you can do with this, but it gives your family or whoever's going to help with your individual, an easy one-stop shop instead of giving them a huge binder or a folder full of stuff. This is all electronically right there for them to look at easy to, if I'm looking at medical stuff, here's where I go. If I'm looking at trust stuff, here's where I go. If I need able or stable accounts, here's the account numbers. So it's just an easy way to collect all that information so that, you know,
And there's
you know it, and then the person that takes over it. And you can share whatever you want. You can share as much with your family or as little with your family. You are in control of that. You don't have to share the whole thing.
Mhm. There's also a journaling capacity that I use for things that have to be done at a certain time. Like if your individual qualifies for PIP, you have to fill out that paperwork every year. So when you fill that paperwork out, you can upload it, and then also with the note of you need to do this every year, and so you can set up a reminder to, next year you're going to have to fill out this paperwork. Same with if you have guardianship, and all of those things can be uploaded and everything is in one space. We're huge fans of it, and we use it ourselves. So let's see, I think that's it. I'm sure there are questions, or if there are questions, we are happy to talk.
Um,
Um,
So I guess let's kind of summarize what we said. Success looks different for everyone. Just, imagine the best,
And don't be afraid to imagine. I feel like if you had told me 10 years ago where my son is now, I would not have thought that possible. I wouldn't have thought it possible that he would be taking nomads. I wouldn't have thought it possible that he was living essentially by himself. Um, I just wouldn't have thought it possible.
and that's, Matt made it easy because he made his own goals, and Alycia has to go about it a little differently. Um, but
And give yourself some grace if you have to guess what you think is gonna make your individual happy.
And stay grounded in those goals. Share with your school teams, get that transition coordinator involved through school, and create that starting now. Um, and then, there are so many resources that the thing about today is that lots of people are looking for help outside of systems because they're not there. There are people doing really creative, amazing things. So they exist probably in your community. It may be a little bit harder to find, but they do. And I think it's getting better, and I only see the future as getting much better.
Agreed. I see someone in the chat said they highly recommend the Danny plan. I love that because we haven't talked to a whole lot of people who have heard about it. So I'm really glad that someone else is giving it the thumbs up as well. It said, do you price your service base around the work you do or another fee or method? So the families we work with, we do charge. We are working on a nonprofit arm of our business, but it is not up and running yet. We charge $130 an hour. We do have packages. And Patty can probably share our information afterwards. Usually we say people will meet with us maybe 4 times. And it doesn't, it could be once a month for 4 months. It just depends on what it is that you're working on. But that's what we charge.
And
And
we will do an intake. We sit down and really kind of dive into what are your child's strengths? What do they want for their future? What does your family look like? Who is in their village? So we kind of dive into that in the first meeting, which usually lasts about an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours.
but we never charge more than an hour.
Yeah, but we never charge. And then the part of the reason why we started this business is we we made these relationships through our parent mentor jobs. So we know the resources that exist. Not all of them, because like I said, there are new things constantly popping up and
Mhm.
you have to be on top of it and you have to be going to these events. And Alycia and I are there and we stay connected as much as possible in our community.
And
Uh,
also just learning what other families are doing. Like I've said, I have been surprised at how many families that we've worked with who are working outside of systems, either by choice or by necessity. Um, I think when we started, we thought that, our kids lived on both ends of the need spectrum, and already we've had clients on, outside on either side. So everyone is just different. And sometimes you just have to take the experiences that you've had, plus the experiences of, the families that we've worked with over the years and just brainstorm.
you're not alone. There's lots of people. There's so many people um, in the same position you're in that are trying to figure this out.
And I have a real soft spot for families that have individuals with those more intense needs because it can be so daunting to think about what that happy life looks like. How do we find something like that?
But
Because it's not
but
easy.
our goal as a company, as I think our goal personally is to build those bridges, to take that cliff away and build that bridge to help you get there with um, so that you're not scared. A plan,
Mhm.
quite honestly, will take away that cliff feeling. So start
Yeah.
working on it, change it daily, monthly, whatever. I feel like it just based on aging, Matt's goals change. So it's a changing document all the time.
Yeah, it really is. And it won't be perfect, but if you get going when you're younger, when they're younger, um, I think I think it's easier because then you have more energy to tweak what needs to be tweaked.
I don't know if there's another.
I think that was it. Oh, yeah, it's just
You
that.
can contact us with any questions. We can talk more about Maine Champion. We can just talk. Um, we're here. We know what this journey looks like. We know the fears. We understand those fears, and we want to help. We have a true passion for this. I mean, one of the reasons that we started this business too was we know 86.5% of individuals whose parents are 60 years and older are living at home with mom and dad in Hamilton County. We've got to come up with a plan. We all need to work together to figure this out.
um,
Um,
Housing is going to be, I mean, it's a tsunami coming.
so, let's all get creative together.
Well, thank you, Alicia and Janet. I'm going to close the recording so that those who would like to unmute and would just like to ask questions will be able to do that. Um, a lot of great information, all about the networking and all about the knowing the resources to help you make these decisions. It's always keeping things in your back pocket or writing them down, just kind of getting the plan. The Charting a Life course, we probably shared the link in the chat box. Um, those are always valuable resources. And talking to your SSA with some of your goals, as they mentioned, always going back to that. And then just being involved, like socially, as they mentioned, Ken's Alliance. I know there's Autism Connections up in well, they're covering West Ohio, but they're out of Greene County as All Hands In. It's a group that just gets together for for dinner it's just a large group that just gets together. So connecting with all these groups is so important. But I'm going to close the recording right now, and I want to thank you, Alycia and Janet, for your information. And thank you for all those that came tonight. And then just, feel free to ask your questions as soon as I stop the recording. And just a reminder, next month we're talking about community and employment and networking. Once again, such an important term. So 1 second while I close the recording and I will, 1 second here. Let me stop share first and I can find my recording button. There we go.